place to be as a teenager, to be told just how sinful you were for being a woman. And sexuality was not just frowned upon, but sexuality was a big issue in our church. And so remaining chaste and thinking purely and more or less modeling the great saints was what I was brought up with. It did not prepare me at all for the real world. I'm sure it didn't prepare any of you for it either. So I didn't know that there was this mind, this divine mind, that I could go into and almost snuggle up with, that I would feel so loved and so blessed to be in it, because there was no judgment. Whatever I did was for my own learning. It was for my growth. It was for my evolution. And so the condemnation and the judgment that I felt growing up was not at all anything that I experience today. And it's such a wonderful place to be. I do believe that is what Jesus was talking about, to try to bring heaven on earth. He's trying to be in that place of non-judgment for oneself and others, and be a little kinder to this part of our soul, this heart, that really does want to love oneself, but judges oneself at the same time. So, as I grew up, I began to see, this man named Joseph Campbell had a point. He wrote the book, A Hero with 1,000 Faces. Anybody ever read that book? So a few of you have. Basically, it's that the hero is an archetype, an image that actually is in all of our psyches, that we can conjure up and see perhaps a different face, but we all agree that a hero is a hero, and we know what that means, right? And the one thing that all heroes do is try to back out of it. So to go on a hero's journey is not going to be comfortable. It's very risky, and sometimes we're volunteered to go, and other times we take it on ourselves and we'll move ahead. But if we think about Gandhi, and his life was on the line several times, and we think about Mother Teresa and how she was there in person for helping any person that needed care and healing. Now, what do these people have in common? Carl Jung, who was the Swiss psychologist, analytical psychologist, said that there is a connection between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. And so as I began to study him, I began to see, well, that's not any different from what Unity's teaching. Lessons in Truth. We all have that part of ourselves that we're trying to bring into wholeness. The subconscious, the conscious, and we're trying to be very clear of this middle place where they both meet, where they come together. So, in our exploration, Carl Jung says further that each of our lives, whether we know it or not, so today I'm hoping to bring this up to you, all of our consciousness, that we are about myth-making. Now, think about your family stories. Oh, Uncle Joe did so-and-so, and what did Helen do? Aunt Helen did this. And the stories are what make us interesting, that stay with us for ill or for gain. And so when we are all about myth-making, we see our lives more objectively. I did a service yesterday with a woman who passed 98 years old, 3 weeks shy of being 99, and I had the privilege of knowing her 14 years, so I watched her when I first went into Unity of Richmond, and then when she went into I want to say assisted living, and then when she passed. And that precious woman just left a legacy of, I am woman, hear me roar. You would know she is right there asking for what she needed, not just for herself, but for others, and she made a difference in our whole community. And her legacy will never be forgotten in my church. And so we have this need, this unconscious need to connect. We are all one. We know that. So when we see that our lives are all about myth-making, we can see there are certain themes that you and I live out. And we're not quite sure why we're doing that, but it's okay. These patterns are played out symbolically, which is why we want to do the journaling later, if you're able to stay. If not, go home and do some good journaling on who you think you are and what you think you are, and see what comes up. Just play with it. This is your spiritual journey. This is it. And don't we want it to be good? Don't we want it to be joyous? Don't we want to find the fun in it? It's when we finally can relax and say, wow, I get to have, I'm on a playground. I'm on God's playground. And I'm just going to have some fun. Now, the best fun that I have is hearing about other people and sharing them. I do that too. And there's this heart connection and something you can see another person struggling with. You can say, that's exactly where I am. So we're in, I believe, in unity in an emergent spirituality path. We're not exactly Christian. We are culturally Christian. But we do follow the teachings of Jesus, of Christ. In so doing, we become Christed. And as we step into that, it feels like a big weight. It feels heavy. But I don't believe Jesus ever said it was heavy. It's light. Because you strive to live in light. And all that we can do is to be striving to live in the light. So what drives us? Well, our beliefs drive us. We're fortunate in unity to have principles by which to live. And God is good. No matter what happens to us, is good. Because we are that Christed individual. We are the I am. And we can use spiritual laws, that law of attraction. What am I bringing into my life now? And where is that coming from? And who is leading or asking for prayer training? I was just thinking, the importance of prayer in our lives is not so much to pray it away, but to pray it through, the breakthrough that we have in prayer and meditation. And then put everything into action. So our principles are there for us to stand on. At the same time, we're telling ourselves simultaneously what we believe. For instance, in my family, I needed to be perfect. And that's a heavy burden. I went off to my first year of college and I had a D- in chemistry the first semester. The second semester, I got an F, and I dropped out of college. Everything else was A's and B's, but because of that, I wasn't good enough. And I realized then I have a problem. I think I'm expecting way too much of myself. But I got it resolved later and went back to finish my college years. Nevertheless, I had that imposed upon me. I didn't just make it up. So I have to understand the culture that I grew up in and the expectations of my family and my parents and the religion that I was in. And so going along life, I have understood I'm living a sacred story. You are living a sacred story. So the story isn't all about Jesus of Nazareth. The story is about you. The story is you. It's all about your path to come into oneness with yourself and then see it in others. And as we see it in others, it spreads out. Our children catch it. They live their lives differently. We don't need to explain everything. But we catch on to principles and we catch on to ways of being. So, as Campbell says, every life is a story, and a story can change, transform, and heal the world. Think of that as your story. Or not. For instance, if you were saying, I don't have the courage and I've lost hope that I can face this situation in my family, my marriage, my job, my whatever, in the world, my health condition. We have brought on that victim mentality that reinforces our hopelessness to do anything or affect any change in our lives. So the question is, how do we believe in ourselves again? And one way is through the mythic past. Now the mythic path, I can hardly say it, mythic path is all about stories. It's all about thinking about the heroes who have gone on before us and what they've done. Now, in biblical terms, it might be studying the apostles, or it would be studying the books of the Bible. But in our terms, in lay terms, it might be all about sharing how we see people heal. That person really said that and it healed. So healing. We begin to see that we have strengths that we're not even aware of. And wouldn't it be wonderful to be aware of our strengths and also develop even further strengths? Because we can see how it's done. So, Carl Jung said he spent his life trying to figure out the myth he was living. And when I read that, I began to ask myself, so what myth am I living? And my exploration for the last 2 years has been to really know that it's all about my own evolution of consciousness, stepping out of Christianity into a world of the unknown, and unity is a vehicle there. And the mythic way is about understanding what characteristics in me can help facilitate that. Now, I like to think that I can influence people, that I can speak to them and they hear my sincerity and know that what I'm saying is true about me, and then can examine it and see what is true for you on your path. But it's getting out of other people's business. It's about letting people be. It's about staying in your own part of the highway and taking down your projections, letting go that ego. None of us are any better than anyone else. We're all on a path. And when you finally say, you know what, I'm really kind of adorable. There are things about me I really like. We're starting to catch it. Can you say that? I'm really kind of adorable.
It's hard to say.
You are.
Oh.
It's a very sweet bird. That's a very sweet bird.
Yes.
So in truth, you are it. In truth, you are. And the way you live your life is so meaningful. We want to make sure that we are the hero of our story. We want to have a story first. And we also want to see ourselves coming through adventures, reluctant as we may be, and we want to see ourselves face whatever it is we need to face, and we want to light it up, and we want to tell others, and we want to have our legacy be known. Because we can inspire our family members. I know we can. The first one in a family that goes off to college, we're always so proud of them. The first one that steps out to try something new, we're so proud of them. They inspire us. Now, we can do the same thing in our churches now, our Unity Centers. Here we are, Unity of Fredericksburg, examining who you are. What is the path? What is the motivating force of you coming here on a Sunday morning? And in truth, there needs to be a mission. And I think you did read the mission, didn't you, Christina? What was that again? Anybody? Advancing positive spirituality and the transformation of our consciousness, or something like that. But that's where we are, truly. And you, just like you are as an individual, will need to believe, can you do that as a group? And how do you do that? Because if you know why you're doing, have you been through the whys and the hows and the whats and talked about that in your training? Not yet. It takes some time to think about, but you will. You'll be able to discern. You'll have some trainings, and it's all about, why are we even here? Let's get clear on that. And then what are we going to do together? And how do we want to grow together? And when we start thinking about options, it gets fun. That's why we want to be together, to be family. And then what are the unwritten rules about family? Many times we need to talk about that, because it isn't easy when we all come from different backgrounds to see things the same way. So we get in teams and groups and we see things differently. But if we always understand we're trying to do what's best, we're just bringing our best, then we begin to see why we have differing points of view, and every view is valid. Then we can discern which is the best. So, think for yourself. So, for this center, what have you tried, and what has worked and what has not worked? The same you would think about in your life. So we have our individual lives, we have our centers. Now the Unity movement is doing the same thing. What have they tried, and where are they going? What is their mission? And my husband, Reverend Richard, many of you know him already, and he's on the board, and they talk about that all the time. Who are we? What are we? What is our mission, and where are we going? Keep that conversation running, so you're always sure that you're going in the path as you are guided. That it's not just perhaps an ego drive to say, we've got to build that church in 3 years and have 500 people. And that might not be the path. It might be for total enrichment for those who are here right now. And that's a wonderful thing to know. And so you can claim your path as you discern together. I really just think that as we grow together as a movement, let me just see. Take this off and I'm going. As we grow together as a movement, all we want to do is to be clear. We are moving in a path of spirituality that has never happened before. We know that, right? We have moved away from our traditional roots. We love them, we love the people in it, and yet at the same time, they no longer serve us. You are in the midst of an emergent spirituality. And as such, you and I and everybody else in this movement needs to pray and listen to each other. listening and discerning and being together in that puddle of everything is where we are right now. And what we do know is that the unknown creates anxiety. It creates fear. Where's the money going to come from? Who are the people that are going to be here? How do we fill this place up? What is that yours to do? So the answers aren't readily available to you, but if you, as a group, are committed to pray together, to talk through those metaphysical interpretations that Paul Hasselbeck has been helping us with, to get to our heart, take those terms and absorb them, because it's in the absorption that you understand every Easter you are resurrecting. And what are you resurrecting from? So the answers are not going to be right there in front of you. We're digging deep. We are digging deep. Now, in spiritual direction, whenever anyone comes to me and they say, I just don't know where I fit in any religion, actually, they have found the best path because they can see the similarities between all and reject none. And so, moving together is really going to be our path. Now, as a movement, emergent spirituality is not something you can talk about with a neighbor, particularly. They will not understand you. So I say that we're Christian-based and that we're focused on the teachings of Jesus. And I do believe that the teachings of Jesus of love and forgiveness are the finest teachings we can ever find up to this time to be perfectly clear, not to be burdened by unnecessary baggage, and to relieve ourselves of the stress of life so that we can just simply enjoy ourselves. And the older I get, the more I want of that. I would just want to enjoy my day. So I'm going to take us into a meditation and have you just think about some of the things I've said. Because an emergent spirituality is all about, not about out there. It's coming through you. It's coming through your experiences. It's not coming through a doctrine or creed. It's coming from who you are and what you're thinking. It's coming from your sacred story. So as we settle, I invite you to really, really breathe now. Breathe deeply. Go inside to that place where you feel so warm and so comfortable. Say to yourself, I am naturally good. The goodness of God is within me. And I am a spiritual being. I see myself in my humanity, merging with my divinity, and each day I am closer and closer to knowing who and what I am. I can grow. I can release. I can let go. I can forgive. I don't need to be right or to prove anyone else as wrong. There is no one and nothing against me. My inner Christ teaches me. The I am in me knows. All the answers are within me. There's nothing I need to do except to feel the wellspring of joy inside of me and go there frequently. And as I release the outer world more and more, I can trust that my ego is just a tiny little wave atop a vast ocean. That's my real self. I am an ocean. And as such, I am the begotten son and daughter of God, in God mind. I am the master. And as such, I can overcome grievances, complaints. I can move past reactivity. I can see love. I see love. I feel love. I am love. And I claim my divine nature. I claim my sacred story. I am here for a purpose. What is my purpose? And I am satisfied today being in the question. And for this time together, each of us can say, blessed be. Thank you, friend, for being here with me. Thank you for showing up and walking this path with me. I am never alone with my friends. And as I turn within, Christ within. And so we pray this prayer today in the name and in the consciousness of Christ within each of